Picture yourself standing at a crossroads in your career. One path looks familiar, safe, and predictable. It is paved with routines you know well, guarded by beliefs you've carried for years. It promises stability, but offers little growth. The other path is less certain. It winds into unfamiliar terrain, filled with challenges, new skills, and risks you cannot fully calculate. It feels intimidating, but it also feels alive. That's the difference between a fixed mindset rooted in scarcity and a growth mindset rooted in abundance. And whether you realize it or not, the mindset you choose at that crossroads has the power to shape the entire trajectory of your career. Scarcity mindset tells you there are only so many opportunities, so much success, and so much recognition to go around. It convinces you that if someone else rises, you must fall. It whispers that your abilities are set in stone. You're either talented or you're not, smart or you're not, lucky or you're not. This mindset locks you into a defensive position, where your energy is spent protecting your status instead of expanding your potential. Scarcity clings to comfort zones because stepping into growth feels too risky. And yet, ironically, it is this very fear of loss that guarantees stagnation. A fixed mindset limits your career by convincing you that growth is dangerous. Imagine an employee who believes their intelligence and skills are fixed. They avoid projects that feel challenging because they fear failure will expose their inadequacy. They shy away from feedback because it feels like a personal attack rather than a tool for improvement. They see peers' success as threatening because it makes them question their own worth. Over time, this employee may preserve their sense of safety, but they pay a heavy price. Missed opportunities, stalled progress, and a career that never reaches its full potential. In contrast, a growth mindset thrives on abundance. It sees talent as something that can be cultivated, skills as something that can be learned, and opportunities as something that can be created. A growth mindset says, I may not know how to do this yet, but I can learn. It embraces challenges as teachers, failures as stepping stones, and feedback as fuel for improvement. Instead of shrinking when others succeed, growth-minded individuals feel inspired, asking themselves, if they can, why not me? This mindset creates momentum because every experience, good or bad, becomes a chance to expand. The truth is, scarcity and fixed mindsets are seductive because they offer short-term relief. When you convince yourself that you just aren't good at public speaking or not a natural leader, you free yourself from the discomfort of trying. When you tell yourself that promotions are limited and reserved for favorites, you avoid the vulnerability of striving. Scarcity cloaks itself in logic. Why bother? The system is unfair. Some people just have it easier. But beneath this protective shell lies the reality that you are handing over your potential to fear. You are trading long-term growth for short-term comfort. Let's break down some of the specific ways a fixed mindset limits your career. First, it shuts down innovation. In fast-moving industries, innovation is survival. But if you believe your abilities are fixed, you won't push boundaries or test new ideas. You'll stick to what you know, even when it becomes obsolete. Many careers have been derailed not because of lack of opportunity, but because of lack of adaptability. Scarcity makes you cling to old tools even as the world moves forward. Second, a fixed mindset undermines resilience. Everyone encounters setbacks, failed projects, missed promotions, rejected applications. In scarcity thinking, these moments become confirmation of inadequacy. See, I knew I wasn't good enough. This belief keeps you down longer than necessary, sometimes forever. In a growth mindset, setbacks are expected and even embraced. This didn't work out, but I learned something valuable. I'll try again differently. Resilience is not built by avoiding failure, but by reinterpreting it. Without that flexibility, your career becomes fragile, too easily derailed by inevitable challenges. Third, scarcity robs you of collaboration. If you see success as limited, every coworker becomes a competitor. Instead of sharing knowledge, you hoard it. Instead of celebrating others' wins, you feel threatened by them. This creates isolation, and isolation limits influence. The most impactful careers are built not in silos, but in networks of collaboration and trust. A fixed mindset starves you of those connections because it makes you fear that helping others will reduce your own chances. But abundance shows the opposite is true. The more value you create for others, the more opportunities open for you. Fourth, a fixed mindset diminishes leadership potential. Leaders are not defined by knowing everything, but by their ability to learn, adapt, and grow alongside their teams. A scarcity-driven leader resists change, avoids feedback, and punishes failure. This creates a culture of fear where employees play small to stay safe. In contrast, a growth-minded leader fosters innovation, encourages risk-taking, and sees failure as part of progress. Which kind of leader inspires loyalty, creativity, and long-term results? The answer is obvious. Career potential is not only about skills, it is about mindset. Two employees with equal ability can have vastly different outcomes based on how they view growth. One says, "This is all I can do." The other says, "This is what I can do now." That single word "now" is the language of growth. It turns limitations into possibilities. It reminds you that you are never stuck, never finished, never defined by a single moment or skill set. The ceiling on your career is rarely external. It is usually internal. One of the most dangerous aspects of scarcity is that it disguises itself as realism. You might hear yourself say things like, "I'm just not management material," or "People like me don't get those opportunities." These sound like reasonable observations, but they are actually limiting beliefs that keep you trapped. They prevent you from testing whether they are even true. How many careers have been quietly stunted by beliefs that were never challenged? How many people stay in roles far below their potential because they convinced themselves they weren't capable of more? Shifting from scarcity to growth begins with awareness. Notice the moments when you think in absolutes. I can't, I'm not, it's impossible. Ask yourself, is this a fact or a belief? More often than not, it's a belief, and beliefs can change. Replace those absolutes with growth-oriented language. I can't yet, I'm learning. It's difficult, but possible. These small shifts rewire your brain to see opportunities where scarcity saw walls. Another practical step is to seek challenges intentionally. Scarcity avoids challenges because it fears exposure. Growth embraces them because it knows they are the fastest path to improvement. Volunteer for a project outside your comfort zone. Ask for feedback even when it stings. Learn a skill that intimidates you. Each time you do, you send yourself a powerful message. I am capable of more than I thought. Over time, these small risks add up to significant growth. Surrounding yourself with growth-minded people also makes a difference. Scarcity thrives in environments where fear and comparison dominate. But when you spend time with people who encourage learning, who celebrate effort, who see potential in themselves and others, you are reminded that abundance is possible. Their mindset becomes contagious. And soon you find yourself seeing opportunities you would have missed before. Another key practice is reframing failure. Instead of asking, "What did I lose?" ask, "What did I learn?" This reframing transforms failure from an endpoint into a stepping stone. It builds resilience because you no longer see setbacks as proof of inadequacy, but as evidence of progress. Each misstep becomes part of the story of your growth, and when failure is no longer fatal, you take bigger risks, which lead to bigger breakthroughs. One of the most liberating truths about growth mindset is that potential is not linear. Many people believe careers must progress in predictable steps. Entry-level, mid-level, senior, leadership. Scarcity panics if the path veers off course. I'm falling behind. Growth mindset sees every detour as valuable. Taking a sideways move, switching industries, or even stepping back temporarily can all contribute to long-term growth. The question is not, am I ahead of others, but am I expanding my skills, my influence, my capacity? That expansion, not rigid comparison, is what defines potential. Let's imagine two professionals in the same company. One, guided by scarcity, plays it safe. They do what's expected, avoid challenges, and protect their position. They are reliable, but they remain in the same role for years, frustrated that they are overlooked. The other, guided by growth, takes on projects outside their expertise. They make mistakes, but they learn. They seek feedback, collaborate widely, and show resilience when things go wrong. Over time, who do you think leaders notice? Who do you think becomes indispensable? Not the one who clung to safety, but the one who kept expanding. This is why a fixed mindset limits your career. It caps your potential before external circumstances ever do. It convinces you that safety is better than growth, that certainty is better than possibility, that comfort is better than progress. But the world is constantly changing, and the careers that flourish are those that adapt. Scarcity builds walls, growth builds bridges, and the choice between them is one you make every day. So here is the challenge. The next time you feel fear telling you to stay small, ask yourself what growth would do. Would growth take the risk? Would growth learn the skill? Would growth see failure as a teacher? Each time you choose growth, you chip away at the ceiling scarcity has built over your potential. And slowly, that ceiling disappears, revealing a career path that is not only bigger than you imagined, but also richer, more fulfilling, and more alive. The difference between scarcity and growth is not just theoretical. It is practical, tangible, and deeply personal. Scarcity tells you that your career is limited by external forces. Growth tells you that your career is defined by your choices, your willingness to learn, and your courage to expand. And the truth is this: your potential is far greater than your fear wants you to believe. When you let go of scarcity and embrace growth, you stop protecting a small corner of safety and start building a future of limitless possibility. Scarcity versus growth is not only a matter of career advancement, it's a matter of identity. How you see yourself shapes the choices you make, and those choices accumulate into the trajectory of your life. If you see yourself as someone with fixed abilities, you unconsciously avoid stretching moments. You say no to opportunities because they feel intimidating. You choose the familiar because it feels safe. But every time you retreat into comfort, you reinforce the story that you are limited. Soon, your identity becomes a cage, and your career becomes a cycle of repetition rather than expansion. A fixed mindset also creates subtle but destructive patterns in daily work. When you believe you must always appear competent, you spend more energy covering up weaknesses than developing strengths. You avoid asking questions because you don't want to seem ignorant. You hesitate to share bold ideas because failure would expose you. You might even resist mentoring or collaboration, worried that helping others will make you look less valuable. On the surface, you appear steady and reliable, but beneath the surface, you are stagnant. Scarcity convinces you that safety is the highest goal, but safety without growth leads to irrelevance. Contrast that with growth. A growth-oriented professional approaches work with curiosity rather than fear. They are not afraid to say, "I don't know this yet." They see every question as a doorway to understanding, every challenge as a chance to stretch. They are willing to look unpolished for the sake of progress. This willingness creates momentum that others notice. Leaders don't promote those who hide behind comfort zones. They promote those who show evidence of learning, resilience, and adaptability. By embracing growth, you transform perceived weaknesses into strengths because you demonstrate courage and teachability, qualities far more valuable than a facade of perfection. Scarcity also affects how you pursue goals. When you believe opportunities are limited, you chase after recognition as if it were scarce oxygen. You may seek promotions or titles not because they align with your purpose, but because you fear being overlooked. This chase often leads to burnout because no achievement feels secure. Scarcity whispers, if you stop striving, someone else will take your place. The irony is that in this desperate pursuit, you lose touch with what actually fulfills you. Growth mindset, however, reframes goals as milestones of development rather than badges of survival. You pursue challenges that expand you, not just titles that protect you. The result is a career path that feels authentic, aligned, and sustainable. Feedback is another area where the divide between scarcity and growth is stark. A scarcity-driven professional interprets feedback as a threat. Criticism feels like proof of inadequacy, so it is resisted, avoided, or dismissed. Over time, this resistance creates blind spots that hold back progress. Growth-driven professionals, on the other hand, welcome feedback as fuel. They recognize that no one sees themselves clearly and that outside perspective is a gift. Instead of shrinking when faced with critique, they expand. They ask questions, apply the lessons, and grow stronger. The same feedback that paralyzes someone with a fixed mindset propels someone with a growth mindset. Scarcity also breeds comparison. In environments shaped by fixed thinking, success feels like a competition. You measure your worth against your colleagues' achievements, constantly scanning for where you fall in the hierarchy. This comparison is toxic because it leaves you either insecure or arrogant. Insecurity keeps you small, while arrogance isolates you. Growth thinking dissolves comparison by shifting the focus inward. The question is not, am I better than them, but am I better than I was yesterday? Progress becomes the standard, not ranking. This mindset frees you from jealousy and allows you to celebrate others genuinely, knowing their success doesn't reduce yours. One of the most damaging aspects of a fixed mindset is that it keeps you stuck in a loop of avoid and protect. You avoid risks, avoid challenges, avoid change. You protect your image, protect your position, protect your comfort. But in the modern world of work, change is constant, disruption is inevitable, and comfort is temporary. The more you avoid, the more vulnerable you become. Growth breaks this loop by teaching you to embrace discomfort as the birthplace of advancement. Instead of avoiding, you lean in. Instead of protecting, you experiment. Instead of resisting change, you anticipate it. This shift makes you anti-fragile, able not only to survive change, but to benefit from it. Scarcity narrows your vision. Growth widens it. When you think in scarcity, you see only immediate threats and limited options. You might say, there are only a few jobs in my field, and if I don't get one, I'm done. Growth says, if there aren't opportunities, I can create them. If one path closes, another will open. This expansive vision fuels creativity and entrepreneurship. Some of the most remarkable careers were not built by climbing existing ladders, but by building new ones. That kind of innovation is impossible under scarcity thinking, but natural when you believe growth is always possible. Perhaps the most liberating part of choosing growth over scarcity is how it changes your relationship with failure. Scarcity defines failure as evidence that you are not enough. Growth defines failure as proof that you are trying, learning, and moving forward. Scarcity asks, what will people think if I fail? Growth asks, what will I learn if I try? This simple reframe changes everything. It gives you permission to take bold steps, to experiment, to innovate without fear. And the more you practice this, the more confident you become. Not because you never fail, but because failure no longer controls you. Your career potential is not determined by how perfect you are today, but by how willing you are to grow tomorrow. A fixed mindset limits you by making you believe you are a finished product. A growth mindset liberates you by reminding you that you are always a work in progress. And progress, not perfection, is the fuel that builds extraordinary careers. Each time you choose growth over scarcity, you chip away at the illusion of limitation. And in its place, you build resilience, adaptability, and the capacity to rise into a future far bigger than your fear ever allowed you to see. When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, the battle between scarcity and growth is not just about career strategies, it is about how you choose to live your life. Scarcity tells you to grip tightly, to fear loss, to play small in order to feel safe. It convinces you that your potential is capped, that your abilities are fixed, and that the future is something to survive rather than something to shape. Growth tells a different story. It invites you to see life as a journey of expansion, where every challenge strengthens you, every failure teaches you, and every success is proof that possibilities are limitless. The tragedy of a fixed mindset is not that people lack talent, but that they never discover how much more they were capable of because they never gave themselves permission to grow. They sit in meetings with brilliant ideas locked inside, too afraid to risk looking foolish. They watch colleagues rise, telling themselves that could never be me, instead of asking, what can I learn from them? They stay in roles far beneath their ability simply because scarcity whispers that trying for more is too dangerous. And as the years pass, they mistake comfort for contentment, only to find themselves restless and unfulfilled. Growth mindset changes everything. It says, I am not finished yet. I am not defined by this moment, this setback, or this limitation. I am capable of learning, adapting, and becoming more. With growth, you no longer see your career as a narrow ladder where only a few can climb. You see it as a landscape full of paths you can explore, expand, and even create yourself. Growth frees you from the prison of comparison because you know that your journey is unique. It liberates you from the weight of perfection because you know that progress is the true measure of success. Choosing growth does not mean the road will be easy. You will face failures, you will feel uncomfortable, and you will confront parts of yourself that scarcity told you to avoid. But in every uncomfortable step lies the seed of transformation. Every time you ask for feedback, every time you raise your hand for a challenge, every time you take a risk in the direction of growth, you strengthen the muscle of resilience. And resilience is the true currency of long-term success. So here is the conclusion. Scarcity limits your career by convincing you that safety is more valuable than growth. But safety without growth leads to stagnation, and stagnation erodes potential. Growth, on the other hand, multiplies opportunities, expands influence, and unlocks a career that is not only successful but meaningful. The difference is not in what you were born with, but in what you choose to believe about your capacity to grow. And here is the call to action. Stop letting scarcity write the story of your career. Stop saying "I can't" and start saying "I can learn." Stop comparing your journey to others and start measuring your progress against your past self. Stop waiting for the perfect conditions and start taking imperfect steps. Choose growth today, in your mindset, in your actions, and in your vision for the future. If this message resonates with you, if you are ready to break free from the fixed mindset that has held you back and step into the limitless potential of growth, then join us here at Think Fresh Daily. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs encouragement, and be part of a community that believes in abundance over scarcity, growth over fear, and possibility over limitation. Because your career and your life are too valuable to be capped by scarcity, you were made to grow.